So I am going to go through the research needs and priorities that have been identified throughout the different taxonomic sessions as we try to merge them and to find out which one were transversal and cross-cutting through the different teams. So next slide. I will first just give you a presentation of the research needs that have been identified for the plants in the priority order. Estelle already did it, but this is a more graphic representation. So as you can see, it is quite well balanced. And there are, here for the plant, there are 7 research needs that have been identified and that have received more than 10% of the votes. For those who were not there, people have discussed and have proposed different research needs, and afterwards everyone was able to vote on which one they consider the most important. And here are the results. Then maybe we can go to the next slide. This is the results that we had for the vertebrates. I identified here 5 main research needs that receive more than 10% of the votes, and which therefore are considered as important by the people who were attending and the conference and voting. Again, I'm not going into the detail of each, but you can read them, and they will be. I will explain more about them in the transversal research needs. Then maybe we can already go to the next slide. And these are the results, the 5 results of research needs for the invertebrates. And here we can see that the 2 first research needs actually account for more than half of the votes. So they are considered, like, it's very, very important. Okay, now based on these results, as I said, we tried to extract research needs that were transversal to all the groups. And maybe we can go to the next slide. What I will do is to show you a list of 7 research needs, and it will be on those research needs that we will ask you to vote afterwards. And the voting will not be this time on a 1 to 5, not on a scale from like the top 5 or top 3, but on a scale based on criteria. You will see, I will show it in the last slide. So one of the first research needs that was identified was a need for standardization, methodology. Yes? Oh, sorry. Methodologies and protocols that help to design future studies, but also that help to compare the results of these studies in the future. Because if you have like standard methods and models, then you can really you are able to compare the different results that come out, which was something that was missing in the studies that were analyzed by the experts. A second very important point was that there were not enough field studies, especially ecological studies. So studying at a more not only on one specimen or at molecular level, but also at the system of like the interaction and the bigger ecological studies. And also that these studies would need to be really compared and to be linked with the results that are done in the laboratory studies. So next slide. A third point was, of course, the question on research on the new technologies, because there are more and more new technologies coming up, and the studies may have focused on a certain type of studies, and indeed there were not enough or not at all studies on the 5G technology, for example, but also on the LED lamps, pulse radiations, cell towers, smart meters, etc. A fourth research need was to see what were the impacts of the electromagnetic radiation, but at different biological organizations. It's a bit related to the point on the field studies, but this is more on the content of the study itself. So like to study the impacts on whole ecosystem, on interactions, on the populations. And on the other hand, also to have more studies at the protein level, genomic level, and on different assemblages. Next slide. Number 5, it was also mentioned that there should be more data collected on the confounding and interfering factors. And another point, which is a bit different, but I put them together, on how the different frequencies interact and what are the impacts actually of different types of EMR on a single organism, for example. Because yeah, in the environment and in the real world, you might find different types of EMR on the same place or on the same in the same region. So number 6, this was also a very important point, that there should be much more cooperation and collaboration between countries, between different research teams, and also that these teams should really include different disciplines, that they should be interdisciplinary. So as we already said, not only biologists and ecologists, but also technical experts, and as some people mentioned, also people experts in GIS or cartography. And then the final point was that it would be very interesting to include observations and the knowledge that is gathered from the local people, because they made a lot of observation, and this can be very helpful for the scientists that cannot be, let's say, on the field every day. And this also is related, of course, to the citizen science, which is a way to engage citizens in scientific studies, and also to gather data and observations on the environment. So next slide. So you have seen the 7 points that I have mentioned now, and what we will ask you is to, for each of these research need or priority, to give on a scale of 1 to 5 if you consider if that need is of a general importance and urgency. So if the need should be addressed soon, and that it is very important to address it. The second point is more about the feasibility, and if it's how easy or not is it to implement such a study, and this also, of course, includes how easy or not is it is to finance such a study. And finally, the third point is about how this kind of knowledge would bring, well, this kind of study would bring more information to the current knowledge on the topic, and especially how this could help to make better decisions based on the evidence that it will provide.